So the season 27 premiere of South Park just aired, and holy shit. I think it's safe to say that South Park is back. And when I say that, I don't just mean that the show is literally back. I mean the soul, the edge, the controversy. South Park is back in a way that they haven't been back in probably at least a decade. And if they hadn't made it very clear in the past, I think Matt and Trey just wanted to remind us they truly do not give a single fuck. What they did in this episode is probably the most insane middle finger I have ever seen. And I'm not even talking about what they did to Trump. Sure, they tore Trump to shreds, but not just for the sake of it. No, making fun of Trump was a calculated play on their part to achieve their real goal, screwing Paramount as hard as they can. Like, I don't think you guys understand just how insane this actually is. I'm so excited to talk about it because if you don't know the full context of everything going on behind the scenes, by the end of this video you will, and you'll understand that this might be the most insane thing South Park has ever done, even crazier than the Muhammad and Scientology stuff. This is genuinely some next level 200 IQ supervillain shit on the part of Matt and Trey. So enough of the intro, let's just get straight into it. Personally, I'm just so happy that South Park is finally back. There's really nothing better than when one of your favorites is back and better than ever, which just so happens to be the case with today's sponsor, Raycon. Now, I've talked about Raycon's everyday earbuds before. I've been using them for close to a year at this point, but they've somehow managed to make them even better by including the one thing that they were missing, active noise cancellation. I've really been loving this feature because I wear these pretty much everywhere I go, and if I ever want to tune out all the noise around me, all I gotta do is turn on the noise cancellation and we're good to go. Combine that with 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life, and they pretty much are always in my ears, whether I'm working out, shopping, going for a walk, pretty much anything. They're incredibly comfortable in my ears, and I also use their awareness mode all the time if I ever need to hear anything around me. So that's why you need to go to buyraycon.com/blooms right now to get 20% off of the fan favorite everyday earbuds classic. Again, that is buyraycon.com/blooms. You can click the link in the description or the pinned comment to get 20% off of your everyday earbuds classic. And of course, a huge thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this video. So I'm going to start with a quick summary of the episode, and then I'll give context as to why this is so crazy, but if you want to just skip to that, feel free to do so with the chapters. The episode opens with Cartman finding out from his mother that his favorite comedy radio show, NPR, has been taken off the air by the president. Of course, this is Cartman, so calling NPR a comedy show is pretty par for the course.
It had like gay rappers from Mexico all sad because girls in Pakistan got stoned to death, and guess why they got stoned to death? Because they were raped! It was hilarious! Why would anyone cancel that?
He begins to notice that the cultural tides seem to be shifting away from woke, and he's afraid of that happening.
Woke stuff is off limits. I mean, it's like now everyone rips on the Jews and it's totally fine, huh, Kyle?
His last hope is PC Principal, the man whose entire character is literally just a representation of woke politics, but he quickly learns that he too is compromised.
Our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
What?
Now, I'm not sure if this is referencing a specific event, but I know that this administration has made statements about wanting to put Christianity back into the government and schools, with some states doing things like putting the 10 Commandments in the classroom. So, of course, the way they go about showing this is by having PC Principal bring Jesus himself into the school. So Stan tells Randy this, and he's slightly concerned, so he does what every good parent would do and talks to ChatGPT about it. Back at school, Cartman is freaking out about the fact that even PC Principal isn't woke anymore, and he declares woke to be dead.
You can just stay retarded now, nobody cares. Everyone hates the Jews, everyone's fine with using gay slurs.
Now, you may be wondering, why would Cartman, of all people, care about things being less woke? You would think he would rejoice over that? Well, not exactly, because if no one is woke, Cartman has no one to piss off. Cartman doesn't actually hold any political beliefs at all. All he cares about is using social or political movements for his own enjoyment, and of course, there is nothing he enjoys more than antagonizing people. So, if no one's woke anymore, he has nothing to live for. I also feel like this is kind of a meta joke about South Park itself, where Matt and Trey feel like being politically incorrect and offensive was kind of their whole thing, but now that it's seemingly the norm, it's just not the same. They're not special anymore. At the bar, the whole town is talking about the president, and we begin to see the effects of the death of woke firsthand.
I voted for him to get rid of all the woke stuff, but now that retarded faggot is just putting money in his own pockets.
So they all get riled up and decide to take matters into their own hands, forming an angry mob and heading straight to the president's front door. Except when they bust in, they find a scene they didn't expect.
Excuse me, do you mind?
So Garrison is no longer the president. He gave up on that at the end of the last season. And can I just say, thank God. Garrison has always been one of my favorite characters, and him having to play the role of Trump for so long was downright exhausting. I am so glad they found a way to remove him from that role entirely. But if Garrison isn't president, it begs the question.
Who's the retarded faggot in the White House?
We get the answer to this question alongside the return of a familiar face.
A dictator from the Middle East? Hey, relax, guy. I'm just your average Joe. Take a rest.
Now, if you're not a scholar in South Park lore like myself, you may not understand who this is, but that's why I'm here. That, my friends, is Saddam Hussein, and he was an occasionally recurring character from the early seasons of the show. The last time he made a major appearance was 22 years ago back in season 7 when he got caught pretending to be the Prime Minister of Canada. He played a major role in the South Park movie as Satan's lover and a couple of subsequent episodes in the following season. But he is back in all of his glory, this time with a fresh new look. Now, technically, we don't know if this is actually a separate character, just given the exact same voice and mannerisms as Saddam, or if it's Saddam wearing a disguise. I tend to lean towards the latter because he did exactly that in his last appearance, and there's a few lines that hint at it.
Hey, come on. You don't want me to bomb you like I did Iraq.
I thought you just bombed Iran.
Iraq, what the hell's the difference? Relax, guy.
But this is the point when the episode really starts to go off the rails, giving us a completely absurd and Looney Tunes-esque caricature of Trump, who goes down the halls critiquing all of his portraits for his penis being too small. Then he hops into bed with another familiar face we haven't seen in a while.
I can't even see anything, it's so small.
Now, this may seem overly childish even by South Park standards, but there is a very good reason for that, which we'll talk about later in the video. Meanwhile, Cartman has completely given up hope, confiding in Butters at the pond. Without Woke, he has nothing to live for, and despite Butters' pleas, he knows what he has to do.
I'm gonna kill myself. And you.
Back at the White House, Trump is living it up when Randy gives him a call to air the town's grievances. He casually walks past some rather flattering artwork on the wall while they chat, and he ends it by threatening to sue South Park. And Satan has a couple of questions for him when he gets back into bed.
Another random bitch commented on my Instagram that you're on the Epstein list.
Are we still talking about that?
It's weird that whenever it comes up, you just tell everyone to relax. You remind me more and more of this other guy I used to date. Like, a lot.
Meanwhile, Cartman is in Butters' garage attempting to suck down the exhaust from the car, and he eventually convinces Butters to join in. 60 Minutes is very timidly reporting on South Park's protest against Trump, which gives a pretty funny gag.
The Stotch family is proud to say that we own an electric car.
What's funny about this is I actually predicted they would make this joke because they made pretty much this exact same joke back in season 12.
What happened? I thought you were gonna kill yourself.
I tried. Went to sleep in my mom's car in the garage with the engine turned on.
But you didn't die?
Freaking hybrids, man. They just don't do the trick anymore.
So then Jesus comes in to explain to the town what's really going on, and he outright name drops Paramount, CBS, and Stephen Colbert.
You guys saw what happened to CBS? Yeah, well, guess who owns CBS? Paramount. You really want to end up like Colbert? You guys gotta stop being stupid.
And I'll explain all of this in a second. The episode ends with the town agreeing to settle with Trump, but as part of the settlement, they have to promote pro-Trump messaging, and we get our first pro-Trump PSA.
Who survived the wilderness and gave the ultimate sacrifice? Donald J. Trump.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I endorse this message.
His penis is teeny tiny, but his love for us is large.
It is just absolutely absurd with Trump being deep-faked onto an actor, and I wish I could show what happens next, but you're just gonna have to go watch the episode. The final shot leaves us with Cartman and Butters still sitting in the car waiting for their inevitable demise, which of course will never come. Now, again, the way they made fun of Trump in this episode seems to be incredibly juvenile even for South Park, but trust me, this is all calculated, so let's get into it. So on the surface, this doesn't seem like anything particularly special. They went pretty hard on Trump, but it's not necessarily out of the ordinary for South Park. But allow me to explain what the real plan was here so that you can fully grasp the massive set of balls Matt and Trey have just put on display. So I talked in my last two videos about South Park's dealings with Paramount and how Paramount has seemingly screwed them over time and time again. I recommend you check out those videos for the full context, but this is the short version. Paramount has been dealing with a lawsuit from Warner Brothers regarding South Park streaming rights for years at this point. This has affected South Park's production greatly. Paramount is trying to merge with Skydance just as South Park is coming to the end of its contract with HBO for streaming rights. The merger is a quote shit show according to Matt and Trey, and it causes the new season to be delayed by 2 weeks. And all of this is going on while they're trying to negotiate a new deal for streaming. The incoming executives from Skydance are given control over Paramount's deals, and they change the terms of South Park's original deal they had planned with Paramount. On top of that, the executives begin meddling in their negotiations with other companies like Netflix and HBO. HBO. Matt and Trey are very upset by this, and they threatened to sue Paramount over it only 2 weeks ago from today. So Matt and Trey have been very upset with Paramount for a very long time now, and leading up to the last couple of days, we didn't even know if they would still be signing with them for exclusive streaming rights. So that's all stuff we already knew, but a couple of days ago is when shit really started to hit the fan. In those videos, I didn't mention the fact that President Trump has actually been in a lawsuit with Paramount for months now, attempting to sue them over an interview with Kamala Harris during the elections. You don't need to know the full context of that, all you need to know is that Trump is pissed off at Paramount. This wouldn't be a huge problem if it weren't for the fact that Paramount was attempting to merge with Skydance, and this merger needs approval from the FCC. The FCC is under the Trump administration, so essentially, as long as Trump is angry at Paramount and suing them, he can hold this merger above their head and prevent it from happening. Paramount realizes that if they want this merger done, they just have to give in. So they make the decision to settle with Trump for $16 million, supposedly promising another $20 million worth of screen time from Skydance when the merger actually happens.
As part of the settlement, we also had to agree to doing pro-Trump messaging.
Shortly after they agree to this, in a shocking coincidence, Paramount announces the cancellation of their decades-long Late Show with the host Stephen Colbert. They cite the fact that the Late Show was losing them tens of millions of dollars a year, but the weird part is that not only had the show just been renewed through 2026 recently, but it's also the most popular late-night show on television based on ratings. Now, if you know anything about Stephen Colbert, you know that he's not the biggest fan of Trump, and he's making fun of him pretty much every night on his show. And specifically, he called out this settlement that Paramount made with Trump as looking more like a political bribe than a legal proceeding. And consequently, Trump has been a very outspoken critic of Colbert in the past. So it definitely seems a bit coincidental that Paramount would decide to cancel the #1 late night talk show on TV while they are actively in the process of caving to the president's intimidation tactics.
I mean, who the hell does this president think he is? The government can't cancel the show. I mean, what show are they gonna cancel next?
And it looks even worse when the president immediately hops on Truth Social to celebrate Colbert's cancellation, and then also threaten the jobs of the other late night hosts who have a tendency to badmouth him. So with this lawsuit settled and the merger with Skydance all but confirmed by the president, Paramount is finally able to make a deal with South Park for a whopping $1.5 billion. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I've never been a big fan of Stephen Colbert. I personally have never found his show to be very funny, and after his cancellation, it seemed like a lot of people share that sentiment. And as much as I love South Park and think it's absolutely worth an insane amount of money, as I said in my last video, I think investing $1.5 billion into a single show for 5 years could literally never make sense from a business perspective. So I do believe Paramount when they say that Colbert was losing them money, reportedly $40 million a year. But with the timing and the sheer amount of money they were willing to give to South Park immediately after, I find it incredibly hard to believe that money was the only motivator for this decision. Trump almost certainly had something to do with it, as they reference in this episode.
You really want to end up like Colbert? You guys gotta stop being stupid.
So all of this happens earlier in the week. South Park signs their deal with Paramount on Tuesday officially, and then they release this episode. Before the ink is even dry on the contract, they immediately go after Trump 10 times harder than Colbert ever has. Now, what's weird about this is the fact that Matt and Trey have been done with Trump for a while now. They claimed that the election was one of the major reasons season 27 didn't air at the end of 2024, because they just didn't want to talk about it anymore. And even after it was announced that the season would be airing in 2025, they went out of their way to make it very clear they weren't going to be targeting Trump because they had nothing left to say about him. So were they just lying? Why would they immediately make the first episode about Trump? Well, as I said, Matt and Trey really do not like Paramount. And after seeing how all of this stuff played out with Paramount and the president, they began scheming. You see, I think they had the season premiere finished a long time ago, since it was supposed to come out at the beginning of July. But once they got delayed and saw how all of this was playing out, they went back to the drawing board and made an entirely new episode in the span of less than a week. Which, to be fair, isn't abnormal for them. Most of their episodes are made in 6 days. But they had not forgotten about what Paramount did to them, and they wanted their revenge. They knew exactly what they needed to do. They would go after Trump hard. Make him a complete caricature. Make him a naked fat guy with a tiny penis who was incredibly insecure about it. But their motivation was not just to spite Trump, no. They were just doing what they had to do in order to get a reaction out of him. They were rage baiting him, daring him to get angry about it, because they knew that it would ruin any of the good graces Paramount and Skydance had just built with him. They were intentionally provoking him in the hopes that he would either file another lawsuit against Paramount or block the Skydance merger. I mean, just look at the way they portrayed him in this episode. As someone whose job it is to watch South Park, I can tell you in confidence that this is not normally how they would make fun of someone, especially in the modern era. I mean, just look at the way they've portrayed him in the past. They very rarely will go this juvenile with their insults. Everything that they did in this episode, from the pictures of him on the White House walls to the repeated mentions of his tiny penis, was calculated. Not only to make this episode as memeable as possible to get everyone talking about it, but to go after the things that Donald Trump has proven to respond to in the past. If they just made fun of his politics like they did in the past, no one would have cared and they would have gotten nowhere. So, they just clowned the dude in a way so over the top it wouldn't be out of place in a Looney Tunes episode. It reminded me so much of their episode on Osama bin Laden back in 2001, when they knew that no one wanted to see them make fun of the political climate or the nuance in it, so they just clowned him in a very similar way. All they cared about was getting their revenge on Paramount, and they did so in the most hilarious way possible. They took $1.5 billion from this company and immediately repaid them by spitting directly into their face, handing them a lit bomb and saying, good luck with that. This might be one of the most nefarious, evil genius business moves I have ever seen in my life, and it just made Matt and Trey billionaires. And that might be the most South Park thing they have ever done. It almost feels like the decades of Matt and Trey farting in the face of the industry has all culminated in this, becoming billionaires from this industry they despise so much and immediately telling them to go fuck themselves. And it's obvious that Matt and Trey recognize that this is a dangerous game they're playing, as the whole subplot follows Cartman and Butters trying to kill themselves. This is literally Matt and Trey's suicide attempt, acknowledging that what they're doing could very well mean the end of the show. And if it does mean the end of the show, I honestly cannot imagine a better way to go out. It's absolutely poetic, and I think it might be the funniest thing they have ever done. So now I hope you guys can start to understand the gravity of this situation, so let's finish it up by talking about my feelings on the episode overall. So the first thing I want to mention is that the show is now streaming on Paramount Plus, and there aren't any banned episodes besides the Muhammad ones, which is great to see. But I do want to mention that Matt and Trey are getting paid a flat rate regardless of if people watch on Paramount Plus, so I'm sure they could not care less if everyone started sailing the 7 seas, if you catch my drift. But one thing about this episode I was excited to see is that Garrison is seemingly back for good, and I cannot wait to see him play his old character again. It seems like they're setting up for Saddam Trump to be a recurring character, and I really hope that's the case because both him and Satan are great characters and I'd love to see him a little more often. And what are they going to do with PC Principal, who gave up on all of his PC values just because it's not popular anymore? I don't know how to feel about that. On one hand, I would love to see him return to his woke, preachy character, but on the other hand, it could be interesting to see him be an anti-woke, preachy character. I also wonder what they're going to do with Cartman, since the last we saw he was trying to kill himself because no one is woke anymore. If I had to guess, I would say that they're going to make him become woke, since he'll realize that's the most effective way to piss people off nowadays. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the show itself did that for the same reason. I've already seen people calling South Park woke on Twitter after this episode, and I think that's pretty funny. I think what a lot of those people don't really understand is that South Park is satire. Satire is inherently counterculture. South Park has not changed at all over the years. They have always been counterculture. The only thing that has changed is the culture. South Park makes fun of whatever the dominant ideas in the culture are, and as the culture has shifted so much in the last 27 years of their show, the groups of people getting offended by the show has shifted as well. In the late 90s, early 2000s, it was the conservative, puritanical type that would get mad. Then the culture shifted towards tolerance and open-mindedness, and it was the liberals who would get mad, and now we've come full circle back to the conservatives getting mad. And honestly, I think that's just proof that South Park is doing their job well. The day people stop getting offended by South Park is the day that the show needs to end. But luckily, it doesn't seem like that'll be happening anytime soon. But all in all, I gotta say, this is one of the best episodes South Park has ever made, and we'll have to stay tuned to see the fallout. Matt and Trey have a Comic-Con panel scheduled literally for today, shortly after I'm writing this, so we'll also get to see just what they have to say about it. But that's all I have to say. This was crazy, and I'll see you guys after next week's episode, assuming the show still exists by then.